Captain Zalara's crystalline scales shifted from blue to deep purple as she studied the sensor readings on her command deck. The Corvanian trading vessel, Silent Current, had been making routine cargo runs through this sector for 3 cycles. But today brought something different, something that made her throat pouch contract with instinctive fear. "Captain!" Communications Officer Vex called out, his forearms trembling as he worked his console. "Long-range sensors are detecting an unknown vessel approaching from the Terran. Quadrant." Every crew member on the bridge froze. The Terran quadrant. That meant only one thing. Humans. Zalara had heard the stories whispered in every spaceport cantina across known space, tales that made veteran warriors shudder and seasoned. Merchants changed their trade routes. Humans were unpredictable. They fought when they should flee. They helped when they should ignore. Most terrifying of all, they never gave up. "Display the vessel configuration," Zalara ordered, though her voice cracked slightly. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a sleek ship unlike anything in the Galactic databases. Its hull gleamed with an almost predatory elegance, covered in strange markings and weapon ports that seemed to shift and adapt as they watched. Navigator Quen, his 6 eyes wide with terror, stammered, "Captain, that matches the descriptions. From the Galactic Council's restricted files, the warnings specifically state, if you encounter a human vessel, do not engage, do not communicate, just run." Zalara remembered the briefing she'd attended on her homeworld. Admiral Cortex had stood before hundreds of ship captains, his usually composed demeanor shaken as he recounted encounter reports. "Humans don't follow standard combat protocols," he had said. "They improvise, they adapt, they turn certain defeat into impossible victory through methods we cannot predict or counter." The stories were legend now. The Battle of Proxima Gate, where a single human destroyer somehow defeated an entire Zephyrian battle fleet. The miracle of Kepler Station, where human engineers rebuilt a collapsing space station in 12 hours using nothing but scrap metal and determination. The incident at the Vortex Nebula, where human diplomats talked 3 warring species into peace during what should have been their execution. "Captain," Vex whispered urgently, "they're hailing us." Zalara's scales turned almost black. Direct communication. This was exactly what the warnings said to avoid. Humans were dangerous not because they were violent, but because they were unpredictable. You never knew if they would help you, ignore you, or somehow turn your entire understanding of the universe upside down. "Should we jump to hyperspace?" Quen asked, his hands hovering over the emergency controls. Zalara stared at the human ship on her screen. Every instinct screamed at her to flee. Every regulation demanded she follow the Council's warnings. But something else, something she couldn't quite identify, made her hesitate. "Put them through," she said quietly. Her crew exchanged terrified glances, but they obeyed. The screen shifted, and for the first time in her life, Zalara found herself looking into human eyes. The human face that appeared on Zalara's screen was unlike anything she had expected. Where she anticipated the savage features described in frightened whispers, she saw calm intelligence. The human skin was pale, almost translucent, with strange dark markings around the eyes. Brown hair fell in organized waves, and when the creature smiled, Zalara noticed the teeth were surprisingly small and even. "Greetings," the human said in perfect Galactic standard, though with an accent Zalara had never heard. "I'm Captain Marcus Webb of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We've detected your ship and noticed you're running minimal power signatures. Are you experiencing technical difficulties?" Zalara's throat pouch fluttered uncontrollably. This wasn't how the stories went. Humans were supposed to be demanding, aggressive, territorial. They weren't supposed to offer assistance to complete strangers. Zalara struggled to find words. Her training had prepared her for hostile encounters, trade negotiations, even diplomatic first contact. But no one had prepared her For a human offering help, Captain? Chief Engineer Torvin approached from behind, his scaled hide pale with worry. Our fusion core is operating at 30% efficiency. We have perhaps 18 hours before complete system failure. Captain Webb seemed to hear this exchange through the translation matrix. Permission to dock and render assistance, Captain. Zalara, she managed. Captain Zalara of the Corvanian vessel Silent Current. Her crew stared at her in shock. Security Chief Brex stepped forward, his massive frame towering over the others. Captain, the warnings specifically— I know the warnings. Zalara cut him off, but her ship was dying, and they were 2 days from the nearest repair facility. Permission granted, Captain Webb. What happened next challenged everything Zalara thought she knew about humans. The Prometheus approached with fluid precision, its docking clamps engaging with their vessel so gently that the artificial gravity barely fluctuated. A small group of humans came aboard, led by Captain Webb and a woman he introduced as Chief Engineer Lisa Park. Park examined their failing fusion core with expert eyes, asking polite questions and taking careful measurements. She worked alongside Torven, explaining each procedure and requesting permission before making any adjustments. Her knowledge of Corvanian technology was surprisingly comprehensive. You seem different than the stories suggest, Zalara ventured as she watched the humans work. Captain Webb paused in his inspection of their navigation systems. What stories? Zalara's scales shifted to embarrassed orange. The warnings. Every spacefaring species has them. They say humans are dangerous, unpredictable, that we should flee if we encounter your ships. Webb was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried unexpected weight. The warnings aren't entirely wrong, Captain. We are dangerous, we are unpredictable, but not in the way most species think. He gestured toward Engineer Park, who was now laughing with Torven as they worked together on the reactor housing. Every species we've encountered follows logical protocols. If something cannot be fixed, they accept it. If the odds are against them, they surrender. If an enemy is stronger, they submit. Webb met her eyes directly. Humans don't do that. We fix the unfixable. We fight impossible odds. We turn surrender into a weapon against our enemies. We refuse to accept defeat until the universe itself forces us to stop trying. But you're helping us, Zalara pointed out. Webb smiled, and for the first time, Zalara saw something predatory in the expression. Because you're not our enemy. As the human crew worked on repairing the Silent Current, Zalara found herself drawn into conversations that challenged her understanding of the galaxy. Engineer Park explained how humans approached problems differently from other species, while Captain Webb shared stories that made the warnings seem both accurate and incomplete. The thing about humans, Webb said as they watched Park jury-rig a replacement power coupling from spare parts, is that we don't see problems the same way other species do. Where you see an impossible situation, we see a puzzle waiting to be solved. Park's makeshift repair shouldn't have worked according to Corvanian engineering principles, but the fusion core was now running at 95% efficiency. Zalara's chief engineer Torven stared at the readings with disbelief. How is this possible? Torven asked. The power matrices aren't compatible. The resonance frequencies should have created cascade failure. Park grinned, wiping grease from her hands. That's the beauty of human engineering. We don't always follow the rules because sometimes the rules are wrong. We tested 17 different configurations in simulation before we found one that worked. 17! Zalara's scales shifted to amazed yellow. That would take cycles to calculate properly. 3 hours, Webb corrected. Human computers run probability matrices differently. We simulate failure scenarios until we find success patterns. As the repairs neared completion, Zalara felt compelled to ask the question that had been bothering her. Captain Webb, why did you help us? Your people could have simply continued on your course. Webb paused in reviewing the repair reports. "Because it's what humans do, Captain Zalara. We help when we can. We fight when we must. We never abandon those in need." His expression grew serious. "But we also never forget those who betray our trust." The subtle shift in his tone made Zalara's scales darken. "The warnings we hear about your people, where do they come from?" "Species that learned the hard way. What happens when you mistake human kindness for human weakness?" Webb replied quietly. "We offered assistance to the Hegemony Coalition 3 years ago. They repaid our help by attacking our supply convoys. We negotiated peace with the Sardakian Empire, only to discover they were using the talks to position invasion fleets." Park looked up from her final systems check. "The warnings exist because some species thought helping others made us soft. They found out differently." "What happened to them?" Zalara asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Webb's smile was cold. "The Hegemony Coalition no longer exists as a political entity. The Sardakian Empire is now 3 separate kingdoms that spend more time arguing with each other than threatening anyone else. The Zephyrian battle fleet that attacked human merchant vessels," he shrugged. "Well, they were the ones who spread the first warnings about never engaging human ships." Engineer Park sealed the final access panel and turned to Torvin. "Your ship should run smoothly for several years now. We also upgraded your navigation computer and installed emergency beacon protocols linked to human rescue frequencies." As the human crew prepared to depart, Zalara accompanied them to the airlock. "Captain Webb, may I ask where you're headed?" "Colony World designation Kepler 442b, Webb replied. "We're delivering supplies to a new settlement. 15,000. Families hoping to start fresh on a world they've never seen." The casual way he mentioned such a massive undertaking struck Zalara. 15,000 families. How do you transport so many people across such distances?" "Very carefully," Webb smiled. "And with backup plans for our backup plans." After the Prometheus departed, Zalara stood on her bridge watching the human ship disappear into hyperspace. Her crew worked quietly around her, the fusion core humming with perfect efficiency. "Captain," Vex asked softly, "should we update our report to the Galactic Council?" Zalara considered this carefully. The warnings weren't wrong. Humans were dangerous beyond measure, but they were dangerous like a sleeping giant, peaceful until provoked, helpful until betrayed. "Yes," she decided, "but add a personal note. Treat humans with respect, and they'll treat you the same. Betray that respect." She paused, remembering the predatory gleam in Captain Webb's eyes. "Just don't." Part 4. The Test. 6 months after her encounter with Captain Webb, Zalara received an emergency transmission that would test everything she had learned about humans. The message came through restricted military channels marked with the highest priority codes. "All vessels in the outer rim sectors," the broadcast began, "be advised that Pirate Lord Vaxon's fleet has seized control of the Meridian trade route. Multiple merchant vessels have been destroyed. The Galactic Council is mobilizing response fleets, but estimated arrival time is 4 days. Any ships in the area are advised to avoid the sector entirely." Zalara stared at the tactical display showing her ship's position. The Silent Current was currently 2 hours from the Meridian route, carrying medical supplies desperately needed by the colony worlds beyond. 4 days might be too late for thousands of patients. "Captain," Navigator Quen reported nervously, "sensors are detecting multiple ships in the area. Configuration suggests human vessels moving toward the pirate fleet." Zalara's scales shifted to curious blue. "Human ships? How many?" 3 vessels, Captain. They appear to be moving directly toward Vaxon's position, despite being outnumbered 15 to 1. On the main screen, Zalara watched the impossible unfold. The 3 human ships, led by a vessel she recognized as the Prometheus, approached. The massive pirate armada, with what could only be described as casual confidence. "Incoming transmission," Vex announced. "It's Captain Webb." Webb's face appeared on screen, but this time Zalara noticed details she had missed before. His eyes held the sharp focus of a predator, and his casual demeanor carried undertones of controlled violence. "Captain Zalara," Webb greeted her. "Good to see you again. I assume you received the Council's warning about Pirate Lord Vaxon." "Yes, Captain. We're carrying medical supplies to the outer colonies, but we can delay delivery if necessary." Webb's expression hardened. "Those colonies have sick children, don't they? The medical supplies can't wait 4 days." Zalara was surprised he knew about the cargo. "How did you—" "We make it our business to know who needs help in this sector," Webb replied, "especially after Vaxon started attacking medical transports." His voice carried cold anger. "He crossed the line when he started, targeting hospital ships." "Captain," Zalara said carefully, "the odds are 15-1. Perhaps we should wait for the Council fleet." Webb smiled, and Zalara recognized the predatory expression from their first meeting. "Captain, you still don't understand how humans think. We don't see 15 pirate ships, we see 15 targets." The next hour provided Zalara with a masterclass in human tactical thinking. The 3 human vessels didn't engage in conventional combat. Instead, they used the asteroid field around Meridian Station like a 3-dimensional chessboard. The Prometheus broadcast surrender demands to the pirate fleet, while simultaneously launching what appeared to be escape pods toward the asteroids. The pirates, emboldened by their numerical advantage, moved to surround the human ships. "Captain," her sensor officer reported, "those weren't escape pods. They were some kind of remote mining charges. The humans are destabilizing the asteroid field." What followed challenged every assumption about space combat Zalara had ever held. As the pirates closed in, the human ships triggered the mining charges in precise sequence. Asteroids began moving in calculated trajectories, creating artificial barriers and redirecting debris towards specific targets. The pirates found themselves trapped in a maze of moving stone, their superior numbers useless as they were forced into single-file attack formations. The human ships, moving with impossible precision through the chaos they had created, picked off pirate vessels one by one. "Impossible," Quen whispered. "They're using the asteroids as weapons. How do they calculate trajectories through such chaos?" Captain Webb's voice came through the comm system as if he had heard the question. "Captain Zalara, would you like to see something interesting? We're transmitting our tactical calculations to your navigation computer." Zalara's crew gathered around the display showing the human battle plan. The complexity was staggering. Thousands of variables calculated in real time, accounting for asteroid rotation, gravitational interactions, debris scatter patterns, and ship movements. "They're fighting 15 battles simultaneously," Torvin breathed. "Each calculation depends on success in all the others. Within 2 hours, Pirate Lord Vaxon's fleet was either destroyed or surrendering. The remaining pirates were rounded up by the human ships and transferred to secure holding cells aboard the Prometheus. "Medical transports are clear to proceed," Webb announced. "The Meridian route is secure." As Zalara prepared to continue her journey, she realized she finally understood the warnings about human ships. Humans weren't dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they redefined the very concept of possible. Part 5. The Understanding. 3 years had passed since Zalara's first encounter with Captain Webb and the human vessel Prometheus. In that time, she had witnessed humanity's influence spread throughout the Outer Rim territories. Trade routes were safer. Pirate activity had dropped to almost nothing, and several minor conflicts between alien species had been resolved through human mediation. Today, Zalara found herself approaching Earth itself, carrying a cargo more precious than any she had transported before. Her hold contained the signed Treaty of Meridian Station, establishing the first formal alliance between the Corvanian Republic and the Terran Federation. "Captain," Communications Officer Vex announced, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Sol Station. It's Captain Webb." Webb's familiar face appeared on screen, but Zalara noticed changes. His hair showed grey streaks, and lines around his eyes spoke of responsibilities beyond ship command. "Captain Zalara, welcome to Sol System. I see you're carrying special cargo today." "The Alliance Treaty," Zalara confirmed. "My government has authorized me to participate in the formal ceremony." "Actually," Webb smiled, "I have a request. Before the ceremony, would you like to see something that might help you understand why humans do what we do?" Zalara's scales shifted to curious blue. After 3 years of friendship, she had learned to trust human suggestions, no matter how unusual they seemed. Webb guided the silent current to an orbit around Earth's moon. "Look carefully at the surface, Captain. Tell me what you see." Zalara studied the scarred lunar landscape through her ship's sensors. "I see impact craters, geological formations, and—" She paused. "Are those structures?" "Those are the ruins of humanity's first permanent off-world colony," Webb explained. "Established 200 years ago during what we call the Lunar Wars. Humans fighting humans over resources and territory." The revelation surprised Zalara. "Your own species fought against itself?" "For centuries," Webb confirmed. "Wars that nearly destroyed our civilization. But look closer at those ruins, Captain. What do you notice about their construction?" Zalara enhanced the sensor resolution. "The structures appear to be built with both military fortification and civilian habitation in mind, defensive positions integrated with homes, schools, medical facilities. Even when we were fighting each other," Webb said quietly, "humans refused to abandon hope for peace. Every military base included plans for conversion to civilian use. Every weapon factory had blueprints for manufacturing medical equipment. We prepared for war while never stopping our preparation for peace." As they orbited Luna, Webb continued his explanation. "The warnings other species spread about humans are based on incomplete understanding. They see our military capabilities and assume we're naturally violent. They see our refusal to surrender and think we're stubborn. They see our willingness to help strangers and believe we're naive." "But you're none of those things," Zalara realized. "We're all of those things," Webb corrected. "We're violent when violence is necessary. We're stubborn when stubbornness serves justice. We're naive enough to believe that helping others will make the galaxy better for everyone." He paused. "But most importantly, we remember what it's like to fight ourselves, and we never want to see other species go through what we did." The ceremony at Earth Station was unlike anything Zalara had ever experienced. Representatives from dozens of species attended, many of whom she recognized from the warnings about human encounters. The Zephyrian ambassador, whose people had spread the first run from human ship stories, now worked closely with human trade negotiators. The Hegemony Coalition survivors served as advisors to human diplomatic corps. "Captain Webb," Zalara asked during the reception, "how do you convince former enemies to become allies?" Webb gestured around the room, where humans mingled freely with species that had once feared them. "We show them that we remember being enemies with ourselves. If humans can stop fighting humans, any species can learn to coexist." As the ceremony concluded and the Alliance Treaty was formally signed, Zalara reflected on her journey from fear to understanding. The warnings about human ships had been accurate, but incomplete. Humans were dangerous, but only to those who chose to be there. Enemies. They were unpredictable, but only because they consistently chose hope over despair. Standing on the observation deck of Earth Station, watching human and alien children play together in the zero-gravity recreation areas, Zalara finally understood the real message behind the warnings. They should have said, "If you ever see a human ship, prepare to have your understanding of the universe challenged." They belong to a species that refuses to accept that anything is impossible. As the silent. Current prepared to depart Earth orbit, Captain Webb transmitted one final message. "Safe travels, Captain Zalara. And remember, anytime you need help, humanity will answer." Zalara smiled, her scales shifting to the warm gold of contentment. The warnings had been right about one thing. Encountering humans did change everything. But perhaps, she thought as Earth fell away behind them, that change was exactly what the galaxy needed. The stars ahead seemed brighter somehow, full of possibilities she had never imagined before meeting the species that refused to give up on tomorrow.